Yes, I'm randomly in my car. I forgot to film the intro to the video, so I'd film it in my car because I realized it wasn't done, so why not do it? Today's video, follow up to the earlier one where we are diving into actually performance testing. So I go over some of the performance tests I did today, looking at my max strength, my rate of force development. We'll keep track of that along the way, so every week I'll do an update on that, where it's at. Talk about why I picked the tests I did and some of the things I liked and didn't like, and then summarizing it all at the end. So as always, much appreciated. Feel free to like, subscribe, follow along this journey, trying to become the best athlete, strongest, most powerful pound for pound person I possibly can. Basically treating myself like a lab rat, a human experiment, a mad scientist operating on himself. So I'm putting myself through it. You guys can follow along, and as always, appreciate you, and hope you enjoy the video.
So let's walk through this testing procedure here. And right now I'm warming up. So I'm eventually gonna pick a weight that I can do for pause squats with comfortable form. And the reason why I do pause squats is so I control the lowering, right? If I have a really fast eccentric, there are ways that you can kind of not cheat, but quote unquote bounce out of the bottom position. So these initial sets are really just designed for me to get to a good starting position. And now you can see here we have about 365 on the bar, and then we're gonna start tracking our velocity on these. So I believe this first one was like 0.44. I have the tracker attached on the metal at the end of the bar. You can see on my far right side. Down, drive up nice and tall. I'll have a good rest in between these. But form and consistency comes first. Then I wanna be explosive because I wanna standardize this if I'm tracking it. And I want to see if I'm getting better over time. So again, the easier I can repeat this test, the repeatability of it, the more likely I can measure my progress. So I get about 4 or 5 singles in until I feel comfortable. See that one there I cheated just so I could show you guys what cheating looks like and how much faster it was. So I got about 4 to 5 singles in, and then I moved into this rate of force development one. And so we talked about in the previous video, the bands are attached, the bar doesn't go flying off my shoulder. Now I had the velocity-based tracker on this, and I didn't really like the consistency of the readings. Now it could have been my fault, it could have been whatever. But also I kind of thought to myself, well, I have force plates in here. Why don't I just use the force plates to assess rate of force development, looking at peak forces versus just kind of ballparking it. So I got the force plates, I set them up. And now I'm trying to explode into the bar, not worry about velocity here, right? I have the force plates reading, and so I'll use the force plates and the peak. You'll see the pictures here in a minute, but the peak force of these. And again, 3 to 4 reps when I did this. And the reason why is because I wanted to make sure I was actually moving it how I liked. And then I messed around with some jumps as well. So I did about 3 sets previously of the other video you just saw where no jump. And then I did some jumping. You can see this setup right there, so you guys get a good glimpse of how it's all just attached to the bottom. And then I kind of messed with some different things, right? So jumping, the reason why I did jumping, I want to see the difference between the profiles between jumping and not jumping. And then I messed with this kind of, quick reactive one and didn't really like that a ton, but those are my main tests.
So let's look at some of the science really quick, and specifically the force time graphs of my rate of force development. But first, I gotta mention, when I was doing the back squat, the pause ones to see where my strength is, I was basically at 0.44, 0.45 meters a second at 365 pounds. So going forward, I'm going to track weekly to see if I'm moving that faster or not. And you might ask, well, Max, why are you doing that? Well, one of my goals was to not just be able to jump higher, right? Yes, we want to improve our jump height, but to get stronger. But I don't want to max out every day, right? I'm not interested in doing, I shouldn't move this around too much, doing 1RMs really heavy every week. It's taxing, especially if I want to rotate in different movements. So by tracking the strength-related velocity of, which would be 365 pounds, I can see if I'm moving that faster, 0.5 meters a second, 0.51, I'm getting stronger. And that way I don't have to use maximal efforts in my back squat to see if my back squat is getting stronger. So that's why that's working. When you see the force time graphs, there's 2 things I'm looking at. One, it's the peak force. So I know that, how tall the slope is, I should say, the mountain, the peak of the mountain on that graph. And what I'm looking at there is it's roughly 2,500 newtons. And I'm not just looking at the peak, but my rise to the peak. And because I did this on a pin squat, where a pin squat, I have a designated range of motion, right? I can't go any lower than the pins allow me. I'm starting from dead zero. I'm trying to explode up and move this weight as fast as I can. Great. So that is going to allow me to have a really controlled range of motion. So I know if I'm able to produce more peak force at the same body weight, key factor, we can do relative body weight ratio on that, then I'm improving my rate of force development. I'm improving the speed at which I'm producing force because the load is light, basically 95 pounds with some band tension. And it's dictated on, well, those rate of force development qualities, much different than that of the 365 pounds. Now, the other one I did in the second image is a jump, and you'll see I have higher peak forces here. And I wondered why, and it's probably because, well, I'm using my calves, right? I'm actually getting into plantar flexion. So you might be able to argue that extra 500 newtons is some synergistic aspect of my plantar flexors taking or contributing more so. I can use both, but I'm probably just going to use the speed squat because I'm just looking at my extensors and not looking at the movement as a whole. But it's easy enough to do both, so I might as well track it over time. So right now, the numbers don't mean a ton. It's not like I have anything to compare them to, but we're going to track this over time. And maybe I can get my speed squat to basically 3,000 newtons, which would be awesome. That would be the banded speed squat. And if I could do that, that'd be really cool, obviously. And then maybe my jump to 3,500 newtons. But the goal is to raise my ceiling up. And this is a means to track my physiological changes. Remember, the outcomes that happen, the things that we measure, the speed, all that fun stuff are all measurables of changes that are happening physiologically and neurologically to me. So ultimately, that allows me to paint a better picture of what's going on. So as always, I appreciate you guys listening. Thank you for taking the time, tuning in. I know this is a little bit more sciencey, and I get excited when I talk about the science stuff. We're doing a full in-depth analysis on these jumps from an educational presentation standpoint on theedgeu.com. That's where I put all my educational content, tons of info on there. Me and Paul Fabritz put that together for the education portion. So if you want to see the sit-down presentation, formal discussion, that's where that is located. As always, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you guys. I'm excited to keep this thing going, build off of it, get everyone involved. I hopefully have some interviews with other people kind of trying to accomplish the same things. Get those people on here in the near future. All in all, much appreciated, and hope you all enjoy and take care.